Hi, everybody. My name is Myles Wallace, and I'm with Peak Performers. I'm joined by Amy today. And Amy, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Amy Fry. I work with Peak Performers as a senior recruiter, and I've been recruiting for about 12 years in a variety of different industries.
And for those of you who are hearing about Peak Performers for the first time, we are a nonprofit staffing and recruiting agency. We help professionals with disabilities find work and advance their careers. And we also help employers find great people. That's what Amy does. So today, Amy, I wanted to talk with you a little bit more about quote unquote unusual behaviors that candidates may exhibit during an interview and kind of get your hot take. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to make the interview as inclusive as a process as possible, not only for people with disabilities, but just for people in general. My first question that I would have for you is a candidate comes in, they do an interview, and they are not able to make really good eye contact and sustain that. What do you make of that?
Well, there could be multiple things going on with a candidate, and this is for anybody. But the truth of the matter, you don't know when somebody walks into your space or you meet them over the phone or virtually. You do not know if they have a diagnosis of anxiety and depression. You don't know if they're dealing with chronic pain. You don't know what happened to them that day or their current situation. And so, first and foremost, if their body language is telling us that they're not comfortable looking at us or engaging us with us, we need to make them comfortable. First and foremost, stop everything and ask them how they're doing and make sure that they're comfortable before we proceed.
And what about a candidate shows up and they are unwilling to shake your hand? That seems like a pretty basic part of an interview, right?
I think it used to be. COVID kind of changed that for us, and we all accept that there's different levels of nervousness when it comes to touching people. But did you know that there are also people who just don't like to be touched?
Mm.
And sometimes that's related to trauma. Sometimes that's related to some type of tactile disability that they have. You're not going to know that. So
Mm.
don't force anybody to touch you.
And what about a candidate answers the questions in a terse kind of way and they're overall pretty quiet during the interview?
They can be nervous, they could be anxious, they could be experiencing acute pain. If it's somebody with chronic migraines, maybe it just hit them. So sometimes in those moments, it is stopping everything. And again, our role is to show hospitality, make somebody feel comfortable. We want them to show us who they are. They can tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the great. But if you do not make them comfortable, it is really hard to get to the great.
Have you ever actually experienced where a candidate breaks down into tears during the course of an interview?
I have it typically, if when I've seen it happen, it has happened when someone has not made that person feel welcome and their stress is just through the roof or their pain. I would rather reschedule an interview if someone is experiencing physical distress, and I would rather even change up that location, especially if I'm recruiting for a remote position. They don't need to be that way at work, or even a hybrid role, or a role where they get to be in one little office all day and they don't have to deal with 20 different people. But I don't know about you. I have had interviews where I have had to meet up to 13 people in one room, and no one let me know that that's the way that interview would be.
Yeah.
And if someone had let me know what to expect in the interview, who I was going to be meeting, how long it would be lasting, kind of what questions we're asking, instead of this very pressure filled conversation, do you think I would have interviewed better? I would say so.
What if a candidate shows up and they appear disheveled during the course of the interview?
I would first and foremost check to see if they're okay. That you don't know if they're sick. You don't know what happened to them that morning. You don't know if they were up all night not being able to sleep because they're so nervous about this interview with you. And this is your opportunity to show that you're a great company, that you're a great hiring manager, that you want them to show up at their best.
Yeah.
And you can also give them more information about what their interview is like so they sleep better before they come in next time.
Something that you told me the other day was that oftentimes, whether the role calls for it or not, the most charismatic candidate often is the one who gets the job.
I do understand that there are some roles in life that do require a certain amount of charisma, some positions in sales or customer service. But when someone has a technical role, if someone has a role where they're managing large amounts of data, information, systems, operations, their ability to do the job has nothing to do with how charismatic they are. And your questions should be tailored to the actual tasks that they will be doing versus the charismaticness from which they respond. Studies show us that people that have too much charisma in an interview might get the job without having all the skills we're looking for. interviews have been more about putting pressure on a candidate, and that tells us how somebody responds under pressure. That doesn't actually tell us if they're capable of doing a day-to-day 9 to 5 job, if they're dependable. It doesn't tell us any of those things. Always go back to those skill sets. And many people who are able to do a job don't get the job because they're not as charismatic. And that's kind of your loss.
I think the bottom line here is that we really need to look at what the job actually calls for and think about the questions that we're asking and the environment that we create for the people that are coming into it. And then here's the bottom line. Not only is this more inclusive for people with disabilities, this is more inclusive for all people, right? This is going to make it so that more people are much more likely to not only show up for your interview, but they're going to be more comfortable, and that you're going to find some really great hidden talent that's out there too. Well, thank you very much, Amy. And again, this has been Myles from Peak Performers. We are a nonprofit that can help you hire people with disabilities, or if you are a job seeker with a disability yourself, we are look forward to seeing your resume. Thanks so much, and we'll join you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.